Good afternoon, and thanks again for joining me in my videos on chess. This video is to answer a new subscriber of mine, and forgive me if I mispronounce your name. I'm hoping I'm saying it right. Joe Svobodny. He had commented on one of my oldest videos on old chess notation explained. And he mentioned a book which I do happen to have, and he was asking me to explain what the what's his name? Ludek Pachman, Modern Chess Strategy. He was asking me to explain what he meant by this, and I just happened to have the book, and I opened it up, and I can see where Joe is confused. This is kind of a testimony as to why I own about 24 chess books, and they all have about a 1/16 of an inch of dust on the tops of them because I find it difficult to read chess books. As much as I appreciate the grandmasters and masters making these books for us to learn, chess books are notorious for being hard to read, and not to mention that there's usually misprints and whatnot in the writing. But nevertheless, I did read. It's Joe mentions the book, page 3, diagrams 1 and 2. I set up here. This is diagram 1 on page 3, and I was telling Joe in a reply comment that Ludek Pachman seems to use both notations because he talks about pieces being on let me see. He's using the algebraic notation when he's talking about it in the writing, and yet he'll use the old style notation when he's talking about what the plans for white should be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the paragraph or so verbatim, and then I'm going to diagram out with arrows showing what it's meant. What the question was is what does he mean by all these bishop takes queen pawn, queen to king rook 5, etc. If you notice, I have this. I can't see it on in my screen right now, but I have on the bottom of the screen verbatim out of the book what the moves were put. And what I explained to Joe was that this is all of white's moves. This is what white should be thinking about doing. So let me go ahead and read that, and then I'll start the arrows. Okay, on page 2 it starts out, in diagram 1 we have a position from the rarely played variation Roy Lopez. In practice, this position has not been sufficiently tried out, and the theoreticians have differing views on it. We notice that black has material advantage of 2 pawns, not counting that on d6. Now see, he says d6, and in his writing, d6 is here. That's the pawn he's talking about. Okay? So, not counting that on d6, which cannot be held. So he's saying that that pawn is a weak pawn. It's going to be taken by that bishop any second now. He is, however, behind in development, and his pieces are passively placed. Massively. White, on the other hand, has his queen, knight, and bishop actively placed, and his rooks are ready to join the fight along any of the open files. These factors determine the character of the position and point to the plan to be adopted by both players, which is as follows. So now, I'm going to only show you the white side because in order to make another diagram to show diagram 2, I'd have to stop the video. But I'm going to just show you diagram 1 for now. And so what Ludek Pachman is saying, and it continues by number 1, white must use his better posted pieces to create tactical threats and to launch direct to launch a direct onslaught on the opening king, an opposing king. Excuse me, I'm not reading very well today. Typical threats would be. Now this is what I was explaining, or trying to explain. These are the threats that white is currently showing. In other words, when you play chess, you got to figure out what your opponent's threats are and what you're threatening to do to find your best move first. So on the bottom of the screen, you can see I have bishop takes queen pawn, queen to king rook 5, rook to king 1, knight to king knight 5, etc. It says etc. in the book. So we're going to start by showing you the arrows. I'm going to go ahead and make red arrows. Okay, that's white. That's one of white's threats. That's the first one listed in the book. One threat is bishop takes queen pawn, and that's what Ludek is referring to. Okay, the second one is queen to king rook 5. Okay, and that's there. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is the king's rook 5. So it's queen to king rook 5 will be white's second threat or other threat, next threat, whatever you want to call it. These are not in this order. The third one listed would be rook to king 1. Now, I think Ludek should have specified, because either of these rooks can move to king 1, which happens to be e1 in the algebraic notation. But let me see if I can come up with a different color here. I think it's... No, that's not it. Let's try that again. I guess I could only make green or red. I thought I could make a yellow. I don't remember how to make a yellow one. How do I make a yellow arrow? Okay, there it is. Alright, so I mean obviously both rooks can move to the king 1, but I think Ludek should have specified in the book. He didn't. I'm going to assume by experience that it should have been the F rook that should be moving to king 1. Okay. The fourth one that he lists is knight to king knight 5, and of course that would be this knight here. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this is the king knight space. Okay. I also want to say that when I was running this software, and I didn't turn off the engine wanted to say, let me see, alternate control. The engine wanted to put the knight here, but of course that would be, well, that would only be after the bishop takes the pawn. Okay, so this is the way this book works, and I gotta tell you, this is why the 24 or so books that I have on my shelf are collecting dust, because I always found these books hard to read, and I get through 1 or 2 paragraphs and I'm already falling asleep. Sometimes they're not very explanatory. Let me see. The grandmasters or the masters who make these books are certainly good at chess, but perhaps they're not so good at writing. But in any case, I'm not going to do the second diagram, but I will read the rest of this paragraph. So after I read white must use his better posted pieces to create tactical threats, and then it goes on to show you the threats, and I just showed you them on the arrows. It goes number 2, black must attempt to parry the immediate threats and complete his development and convert his material advantage to by simplification. Okay, it goes on to say, and I'm only going to read like a sentence of this: it is only by accurate and deep analysis of the possibilities of both players that we can state whether white or black has a better has better prospects in this plan. So I'm not going to read any further. But that is the crux of the situation. And again, thank you, Joe, for bringing this up to me. And it's cool that we both have the same book. Again, that's the first time I pulled that book off the shelf in years. I had to literally dust it off to read it. But I hope this was helpful. And again, thanks for making these comments. It is what I had asked when I first started making these videos. I had asked people to comment and ask, what it is that they want to see. And Joseph Abodny did a perfect thing in commenting and asking me about that specific book. I do have a couple dozen books. If any of you have those books, have a book that you might think I have and you want something explained, I'm learning by doing this because I didn't see this before. Since I've been doing these videos, you're not the only one that's learning. I'm learning as I'm doing them. My chess game has improved since I've been doing these. So regardless of whether or not make anything monetary out of this, it is helpful to me because I'm learning just as much as you are, I think. Maybe more, I don't know. I found that teaching is also learning. So for all you chess players out there and who want me to make these videos, if you have kids who want to learn how to play chess, teaching them also makes your game better too. So thanks again. Keep on playing. And by all means, please comment, ask questions, and keep on learning.